Hey everybody, my name is Scott and welcome to my channel of how I do what I do. Today I'm installing a Rheem tankless water heater that has 160,000 BTUs at 7 gallons a minute, and it'll has the capacity to take care of 2 to 3 bathrooms, sink, showers, stuff like that. Well, I'm installing it in my cabin and this will be perfect for me. It's an outdoor unit. I'm using a propane unit as opposed to an electric or a natural gas. I have propane up here at my cabin, so that's what I'm going to use. And also, I only have one sink, one shower, one toilet, and one basin in the bathroom, and I have a washer. So this should be the perfect unit. I was very pleased with the price point of this product. The only thing about it, it only comes with one thing, which when I was reading, this is the shutoff for the propane. When I was reading, I thought it came with a whole lot more stuff. So this unit cost me just a little under $700, but after I bought all the rest of the stuff that I needed, such as you need shutoff valves that are both for the hot water as well as the cold water, it brought my total cost for doing this, considering I'm going to install it myself, up to just under $1,000, which I still think is a smoking deal for what I'm trying to do. So this is my first time installing a tankless water heater. I have installed other water heaters and other appliances and products in the past, but this is the first time I'm actually going to install a tankless. So I'm going to show you some of the things I've gone through and what I've had to do to make this work. Stick around, and I hope this is educational as well as sometimes fun. Now, before you go crazy opening the box and tearing it open and cutting it, on the back side of the box is a template that you'll use against the wall so you'll know where to put the tankless water heater. It's got a cutout, and this can be used for both an indoor water heater as well as an outdoor water heater because it has two different templates. Make sure you use the right template for the unit that you're installing at your house. Just like I'm going to use the smaller template because I'm using a tankless water heater that is for outside use, and mine's also a smaller unit. So before you go crazy, locate this and make sure you don't cut this all up because you will need this for the install. So let's get down to unboxing and see what's in the box. I've already taken the liberty to cut the box all the way around because I need this template. So inside the box, you got your instructions, of course, you got your installation manual, and I found this when I opened it up to be quite interesting. Oh wow, I cut myself. As to where to put things, just different questions. I've got my receipts for how much I spent for everything. So it shows all the different components that you're going to need for, installation connections. You got your gas supply, your cold water, your hot water, you got a remote controller, you got an electrical connection. Okay, this will have to be hooked up to a 110 connection because it's got a remote controller that goes inside the house so that you can control how hot and cold the water is inside the house. So I think that's kind of a cool deal also. So it also comes with your, this goes from the unit to your remote control, and then you got the unit itself. So pretty neat little unit. Can't wait to install it. So we're going to go down to the bottom of the unit. We're going to go from right to left. Normally I go from left to right, but I'm going to go from right to left this time. The bottom right unit is your LPG gas. This is where my propane will be going into the unit. Right here is my hot wire and my common wire that'll hook up for my electric, and there's a ground lug inside of there. So this is pretty simple also. Right here is my water inlet, so this is where my cold waters are going to come in. Now, I called it a remote control. It's actually not a remote control. There's a wire that goes from the unit to a control unit that'll be inside the house that you can control it up or down. Anyways, this is where it actually goes into. And it's just where the remote, they're calling it a remote connection. Okay, and then your hot water is going to come out at this side. Pretty simple unit to work on. Now, when you buy the unit, the only thing that comes in the box is the unit itself. You've got, see, even they're calling it the remote control. But anyways, you got the remote control that they have. You have the cord that goes from the remote control over to this area right here, and then you have the shutoff. Now the shutoff goes for the LPG connection. That's really all that you get when you buy the unit. I was kind of disappointed in that when I bought it. I just didn't understand what I was buying because this is my first one. Let me show you what I had to buy in addition to this. Now, in addition to buying the tankless hot water heater, you're also going to need what is called a tankless water heater installation kit. This is all that comes in the kit. So you got the hot water side, which the water comes in through the top and it's going to go out through the bottom, but you're going to need a couple more fittings. And then you got your, I believe this is called a pressure or relief valve. That comes in the kit. And then you've got the cold water side where the water's coming in. So this is all that comes in the kit. Now I'm going to show you what else you need to do an install, or at least an install like what I'm doing. Now, in addition to having the unit, the tankless unit that comes with just this valve, you're going to need what's called the tankless water heater kit, and that consists of these two parts. Well, now you're going to need a couple more things to hook it up. You're going to need a copper fitting that's going to screw into the relief valve, and you're going to put a piece of you're going to sweat a piece of copper into here that's going to be just below like my cabin, so that I'm not splashing water on my cabin in case we have a problem. I'm also going to have a piece of copper that goes from right here all the way down to this elbow, and then I'm going to shoot it underneath my cabin, and I'm using what's called a shark bite because underneath my cabin I have PEX that goes the rest of the way, and I want copper above, that's on the outside, which I'll use they use insulation that you go over the tubes so to keep it from freezing and stuff. So anyways, and then over here you've got another elbow with another shark bite. Now, red is usually for the hot water, so that'll be for this side, but the shark bite or the PEX that I'm using for the cold water is blue, and that's so that you know which is hot and which is cold. In addition to that, I don't have propane. I don't have a certified propane tank right now that I can use that can be filled, once a year or once every 6 months. So I'm just going to run it off a 7-gallon propane tank that I have for the time being until the inspector gets out here to inspect that over the next 3 weeks to a month. So I went to an RV place and I bought a regulator with a 4-foot hose. And I bought the largest on-demand regulator I could find. I think that's what he called it. Then I went to a hose, and then I used a reducer, and then it goes up to this part, which is the shutoff that was included in the kit. It does require a special type of Teflon tape that you're going to use for each one of these fittings for propane use, and you can also use that for this fitting and this fitting for the water. It does require a special solder for doing the copper, and it's what they call a 97.3. I'm not sure I understand 100% about the solder. Not going to go too much into how to sweat copper together. I'm just kind of showing you how I'm installing this to show you that it's really not that hard. That's all. So anyways, we're going to get this going, and I'm going to install this on the wall first, and then I'll start building all these parts, and I'll start putting them together as I go on. Okay, first things first, this is where I'm going to put the tankless water heater. Now I'm going to paint this piece of wood behind it. I'm going to paint that black, and I'm actually going to put another piece on top of it. So I'm just showing you, right here's where it's going to go, and I've already put a screw up here, kind of laid it out, and you can kind of see right here where it shows where all the stuff is. Here's where your gas is going to come in. Here's your cold water. Here's your connection for the control point connection. Then here's where your hot water's going to come out over here. So anyways, this is kind of where it looks. Now it's going to actually come out, and there's my cold water and my hot water. Now this piece of PVC is just laying there, and that one back there is just laying back there. But anyways, I'll have the copper lines come down the side of the cabin, and then they'll go underneath. So, and then when I'm done, I'll wrap them with insulation. So, pretty simple. So that's kind of what it looks like when I put it on the wall. I put 3 screws up there, and I didn't put any at the bottom. But right now, what I'm doing is just dry fitting everything. Let me show you what I mean by that. Came down here, and I put in my hot water fitting. I'm not really worried about the connection to turn off and on the hot water heater yet. And I've hooked up the cold water. I'm not worried about the electric, but I hooked up the LP line with all the reducers and everything, and I hooked it up to what's going to hook up to my propane tank. Now from here, coming straight down, and then underneath is approximately a 24-inch piece of copper. So I'll cut 2 of those that are identical. They'll be 24 inches. And I'll show you how I go about cutting the copper here in a minute. Now, to cut copper tubing, there's many ways to do it. I'm going to show you a couple of them. You can use a hacksaw, which I don't like. They make a pipe cutter, which tends to bend in the edges, and this is way too big for a piece of 3/4 inch copper tubing. You can use a smaller copper tubing cutter, which I still don't like, or you can use this handy little device. Now, when you're using this unit, there is an arrow right here which tells you which way you're going to spin it on the tubing. So what you're going to do is just open it up. You can see the cutting blade right there. Stick the tubing in there, and this is spring loaded, so when you snap it shut, this is actually going to move over a little bit because it's spring loaded. Okay, and then that's all you're going to do is you're going to spin it. You can either spin this and hold the tubing rigid, or you can spin the tubing and hold this rigid. It does not matter, but it takes about 7 to 14 twists, and it'll snap it right off, and it does a clean cut every time. Cool little gadget. This is one of the simplest things. You're going to open up your unit. I'm going to cut it at 25 inches. Now the cutter is right here in the center where my index finger is. I'm going to come down to 25 inches, and I'm going to hold it right there with my index finger and my thumb. Okay, and we're just going to get it close. And what you do is you come across, and you're just going to close it. It snaps down. Okay, once it snaps down, the only thing you're going to do is spin it. And you're just going to keep going around. And it's spring loaded. And what happens is, I've probably gone around 6 times right now. That's 7. That's 8. It's 9. And you're cut. Look at that. It makes a beautiful cut. Simple each time. Okay, that's what I recommend getting. You can get those at Home Depot or Lowe's. They're about 10 bucks. I've got a 1/2 inch one, and I've got a 3/4 inch one. And I don't do a lot of plumbing, but I still recommend having one. Next, I'm going to show you how to sweat pipe together. I'm not going to dive deep into it. I'm not going to get into how I doing the hot water heater. I just want to give you a general idea of how you sweat pipe together. If you want to know how to do more copper pipe and other stuff, you can check out one of my other videos. I've got a couple different channels, but you always start with, first things first, we're going to clean the copper. So clean it really good. You want to get all the contaminants off. And this is kind of a emery cloth that they actually make for doing copper. You can get it at any do-it-yourself plumbing place. I got this at Home Depot. And I'm just using a 1/2 inch. This is not what I'm using on the hot water heater. The hot water heater, I'm actually using 3/4. This is just some stuff I had left over from another video that I did and from another job. So just get all the contaminants out of it. Now, I use the Odie free solder paste, and I find that this does work the best. It's a little cold up here, so I really got to push to get it on there. Once I got it on there, put a little bit inside the fitting, and just put it on. You don't have to be great about it. Just make sure you get it on there. Same thing. Put it all over the, see, want to get it all over the tube or all over the pipe. So just make sure you get a bunch on there. The more you get on there, the better the job's going to be, in my opinion. So once we got that, you're going to take that, you're going to slide the two together, just like so. Now I'm just using this clamp right here to hold it while I sweat it all together. If you don't have one, I do recommend getting one of these igniters. That's all you do is pull the trigger, and you make sure you use MAP gas, MAP Pro, whatever they call it, yellow bottle. Make sure you use this. If you try to use propane from like your Coleman, it just will not work. The solder that I'm using is nothing more than a 97-3. This is what was recommended to me when I bought the tankless water heater. So this is what I plan to use. Okay, we'll turn this down just a little bit so you can get a little bit better view. Nothing to this. Heat it up on one side, and it takes about just a couple seconds. Just gently, see, you can see. You're done. That's all there is to it. It's literally that fast. I'm not the best at doing this, but you just want a nice even solder all the way around it. And that's it. So anyways, we're going to go on to the next part. If you have a rag and you wipe that off before it dries, it does look better. I'm just kind of showing you how you sweat copper together, just really quick and easy. Okay, what I went ahead and did is I went ahead and took off the front cover of the entire unit so I could hook up my electric before I take the unit off the wall, because it's kind of a stationary place for me to work. So underneath, right here, are your two wires. Here's your black and here's your white. What you're gonna have to do is you got a screw right here. It's a Phillips head screw right there. You need to take that off because your wires are behind here. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I'm doing the other end of this. Again, I took my extension cord and I stripped back a good 4 inches. Okay, now I'm gonna use this part. This is really cool. You take this, and the first thing you do is just slide your gray piece in there. Okay, so this is your cap. You're going to slide the cap in there, and then this seals to right there. So you're going to slide this piece in there next. What this is going to do is as it tightens down, it's going to crimp it, and it's going to keep it in place. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to slide this piece in there, like so. Kind of follow me? So this piece has got to go in a certain spot. Find out where it's at. It's got a little catch. You just got to find it. Okay, and then you're going to go like this. What that's going to do when you tighten it down, it's going to crimp down on the extension cord so it can't be pulled out. Then we'll stick this up in the bottom. Those two black and white wires that come out will be connected to these two black and white wires. The black one's the hot, the white one's the common, and then there's a ground lugging bar that's connected to the unit itself. Pretty simple. Now that we have the camera on the tripod, I can go ahead and show you what's going on. Okay, you're just going to take this screw out. Be careful not to drop it. Like underneath me, I got a bunch of dirt, so I really don't want to drop it. Come on. Okay, take your screw out and set it aside. Set my screwdriver aside. Okay, you got to move all these wires out of the way, and then you grab onto this box, and you're going to pull the box over to the side a little bit, and the box comes out. So we're going to go ahead and set that over on the side. These are your wires that are coming through the bottom. Right here is where your ground wire goes. Pretty simple. We're going to pull up. We need a screwdriver because they've got that so that that does not move. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut that. We're going to take that little piece off. Okay. Come on. Okay, now we got that piece off. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull the wires up through the hole, just like so. And I'm going to take this screw out of here just so I don't lose it. Now you've got this plastic piece right here. This plastic piece is just a rubber grommet that needs to be removed. See, we'll pull the rubber grommet out of there. Okay. Rubber grommets out of there. Okay, I'm back. I just had to go get the wires. Okay, now here's where the fun part comes in. Here's the extension cord that we just worked on. We put this on here. We're going to take a reduction ring. The reason why is I want to make sure that I've got a little bit more strength to hold it in place. So this has got a little indent in there, so I always put the indent down. That way it gives me a little bit more to go in. Okay, now we're going to take this, and this is going to come up like this. And you can see the threads are going to come through the hole. Sometimes you got to screw them a little bit to get them to go through. Okay, once we have that like that, we'll pull that over. I have another ring that will go on the top. And I might have to move the wires out of the way a little bit. Well, yeah, we should be able to get it in there. It's going to take a little finagling. There we go. Almost got it to go down there. Come on, baby. I know it'll go underneath there. Okay. All right, I'm going to have to shut the camera off for a second. You guys are going to have to finagle it just like I'm doing it to get it to go underneath there. There's a little lip that it's getting caught on. Okay, I got the ring down. What I had to do is I had to unscrew it from the bottom just so that the ring barely came up. The edge of it barely came up, so I get the ring in there, and then I put the locking nut on top, and then I can screw that a little bit, and voila. Sometimes I create my own problems with the way, my OCD and the way I want it done. I hate doing things twice. Okay, this is done. Now I'll go ahead and I'll hook up my black wire to the black, my white to the white, and the green to the green. And I'll put the cover back on and I'm done. So I did go ahead and put electrical tape from here and tape that all the way up to the wire connector and back. Same thing on this one. And then if you look inside of there, I couldn't stand that the copper wire for the ground was just wrapped around the nut. So I went and got a wire connector, crimped it on, and this is one of those heat shrink ones. So I heated it up to make sure I got a good seal, good tight, and then I put the screw in. I just can't stand to do things crappy. I'm not one of those that just wants to get the job done. I want to get the job done and do it right. So there we go. Okay, this is pretty simple. These are the connections for the remote controller. So you got the white on the bottom, the black on the top. That's how it saw it in the picture. I didn't see anything that said where the wires go, but there's only 2 wires. If it's wrong, I'll switch them. Then you take your cover, and there's a little clip in the back, and you just got to make sure you get your wires down, and you put it up into place like so. Then you take your screw, put your screw up in place, and just screw it in until it tightens down. Pretty simple. Okay, just like that. I now have the tankless water heater screwed to or bolted to the wall, however you want to put it. I've painted the wood all the way around it black. I still need to finish that up there. I got to actually put another piece of wood up there. But anyways, I've got all this done down here. And what I've done is I've got all my copper water lines all sweated together. Everything's sweated here. Up here, you use a Teflon tape, and the Teflon tape that I'm using that they recommended was Blue Monster FTFE thread tape. Now this can not only be used on water lines, but it can also be used with my gas line. So that's why I went with this. That way when this gets inspected, the inspector can look right along and see all my lines were all done. So what you're doing here is when you put this together, this fitting right here comes off, and then this whole unit comes out. So you're going to screw this top fitting into the hot water side, and then after you sweat these 2 tubes in here, then you can hook it all together. Now this is my my pressure valve, to where if I guess it, well, what it does is if the pressure gets too hot, it's a relief valve, and that comes down. And they just recommend having it 6 inches to a foot below the edge of your house or cabin and stuff. So anyways, I got this all sweated. Make sure you leave these off because you're not going to use this. This is for cleaning it out. I've got my remote control connection. I put my screw back there. I got my supply line, and same thing. You put the Teflon tape up there, put your fitting up there first, and then this all screws together, and you tighten it right here. And then again, this one goes down. Over here, I had to do a bunch of reduction because I'm actually this is a 4-foot line that I'm hooking up to a propane tank because I don't have my propane supply yet. So I'm just hooking it up to a 7-gallon propane tank. But here's my shutoff. Then I had to go with a reducer and a second reducer to get it down to this. And then I put the biggest demand regulator that they recommended at an RV place. And they said that a lot of RVers hook up this same system when they go RVing. So it's coming out pretty good. This is my electrical line that's just temporary, just so that I can plug it into the GFC outlet that's about 20, 30 feet away from me. I now have everything done above the edge of the cabin. The tankless water heater is bolted to the wall. I have my hot water, my supply line. I've got my connections for my remote. I've got my electrical connection. I've got my propane connection. Now underneath, the copper lines go underneath, and then they go to what's called a shark bite fitting. And it's that fitting right there, and I'll show you what they look like. And then they go off to my supply line in blue, and then my return hot line in red. So I'll show you how they work. There's a couple tricks to doing PEX, and you want to make sure you do it right. Since I'm using 3/4 inch copper from my tankless water heater and then connecting it to the PEX, I figured I would show you how I go about doing that. I'm coming out of the bottom of the hot water heater with 3/4 inch copper. It makes a 90 degree, and then I'm using what they call a shark bite fitting. Now this particular fitting will allow me to connect on one side copper and on the other side PEX, or you can go copper on this side, or you can go PEX on this side and PEX on this side. This is a really cool fitting, but let me show you how to work with this, because there are a couple things you need to know. Now I'm going with, like I said, 3/4 inch copper for my supply line going into the hot water heater, and then coming out of the hot water heater, I'm going back to PEX. So I'm using blue PEX for my supply, and I'm using red PEX as it comes out of the hot water heater. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to start with the copper. Now, when you use one of these cutters, what happens with this cutter is it puts a kind of a burr at this edge, and it kind of leaves kind of a sharp edge right here. You can kind of see it. So my recommendation is, after you've cut the copper, to grab just a file and take off any kind of burrs on the inside of the copper. And the reason why you want to do that is because there's a plastic piece right here on the inside. And this has been one of the big complaints among homeowners as well as plumbers, is that sometimes these get ruined. And I think the reason why is because it's got a sharp edge right here. So I've always, whenever I've worked with these, I always file this down before I go and slide it into the shark bite fitting. But another thing you want to do, this is a huge pro tip. Buy one of these. Okay, this has several functions, but for the copper, what you're going to want to do, since I'm using 3/4, you find the 3/4 inch side. You're going to stick the piece in there, hold it in place, take a Sharpie. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to mark the piece of copper. And the reason why you're going to mark the piece of copper is so that you know how far to push the piece of copper into the shark bite fitting. The reason why they leak is because you only get them in so far. If you get them in all the way, you don't have a problem with them leaking. Now when you're working with the shark bite, this piece in the middle, this piece of plastic, it moves in and out. You want to get it to where it's sticking out of there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your piece of copper, and you're going to get it right in the middle to where it slides in real easy. Take your hand and then just push until the line goes all the way up. That's all there is to it. If you want to release it, I'm going to turn it around to release it. They make this horseshoe. Now, I call it a horseshoe. It's a release for the shark bite fitting. On this side, it's kind of an open cavity. On this side, it's flat. I always use the flat side. I've been told that you're supposed to use this side. I've been told that you're supposed to use this side. I don't know which is the correct way, but for this video, I'm going to do it the way I've been doing it for years. Now, this will slide onto a piece of 3/4 inch copper or PEX. Okay, what you're going to do is you pull it in. You're going to pull the copper and the fitting together. Okay, so I'm pushing with this hand and I'm pulling and I'm twisting. As I do, then I'll pull it. So I push them together, I squeeze down here, and then I pull the fitting out. Pretty simple. Okay, so I'm going to put it back together. Whoop. Put it back together. Come on, grab the piece. Got to pull it out of there. Get it right in the center again. There's my line. And slide it in there. Okay, now I'm going to show you how you do the PEX. The PEX is, there's a couple things you have to do with the PEX, and I'll show you why. We're going to go ahead. When you're cutting PEX, you buy a cutter like this. Do not use a hacksaw. Do not use a sharp knife. Do not use a utility knife. Buy one of these. Do not use one of those PVC cutters that ratchets. Do not use one of those. Use this. This is made for PEX. Okay, so this is what I recommend. So we're just going to cut a little bit off, and I'm going to show you how it cuts. That's it. Okay, because this edge right here that I just cut is sharp and sometimes ruins the shark bite fitting. On this gadget again, you're going to go to this size. It slides in there. Right here you've got 3 cutters for the different sizes. You're going to twist the PEX clockwise, and what it's doing is you can see where it's taking off that little burr right there. Okay, you can kind of see the little burr right there that it just took off. Okay, That's what you're trying to do. You can kind of see it. You also keep the piece in there. You're going to use your Sharpie again. You're going to mark it. Okay? If you don't mark it, you won't know how far to push it in. Okay? If you look at the edge, you can see where it's white right here. That's the edge that it took off of the PEX, so that when we put it all together, it works correctly. Okay, right here, you do the same thing. Make sure you've got this piece coming out. There's your line. Just make sure you get it up in there. And be gentle when you're, don't force it at the beginning. You want to make sure that that line, that little fitting right there, you can see it hanging out. You want to make sure that it gets in. Okay, there, now we got it. Grab onto it and then just push. That's all there is to it. This is how you go from copper to a shark bite to PEX. If you want to pull it apart, they make a 1/2 inch remover, and I'm not sure what this thing's called. You put it right there. You're going to pull it, and you're going to pull the red tube toward I'm going to twist it and then pull. It's coming. Sometimes the PEX is a little stiff because this is a little bit more pliable, but you can see how it goes together. See it just there's that's what that piece looks like. There again, make sure it goes in there. And you can push it right back in. So that's how you work with copper, with a shark bite fitting, with PEX. I really like these. I've been using these for probably 7 to 10 years, and I've never ever had a problem with one leaking. I spent the $10 for this. I spent the $10 for this. So these are the two items that you definitely want to have for working with PEX. These are about, I think they're $2 or $3 a piece per size. And I usually work with 3/4 and 1/2 inch anyway. But this is how I've done every one of my jobs that I've done. Okay, so I hope this was helpful, and we're going to get on to the rest of the video. I now have everything complete. The water heater is all installed. I've got all my gas line, I got my supply line, I got the heat going back. I wrapped everything with insulation going all the way down and underneath, and this right here goes all the way back to where it tees off into the house. So this is my, just in case for the pressure relief, it goes down, and that is below this right here by about 6 inches. I just got the propane tank right now sitting on a 5-gallon bucket. I'm actually going to put a deck in right here all the way across that'll actually hold the propane tank. Now I did end up shortening the line with a different regulator that's just nothing more than a barbecue regulator, and then as you can see, I've reduced it a couple times and stuff. So anyways, I am very pleased with this. Right now I have my temperature set on 110. This will, when I'm done, it will be going inside the bathroom. I'm just not done with that. I was just trying to get this up and done so that I could get hot water to my house, or cabin I should say. So anyways, I'm very pleased with my install. I'm very pleased with the product. They claimed that a 7-gallon propane tank will give me hot water at 110 degrees. I'll go through 1 gallon every 2 hours. So if I can get 14 hours out of a propane tank like that, I know, and that's at full blast, I know that I'll never go through all the propane. So I'm very pleased with the product. Again, my name is Scott, and this is my channel, How I Do What I Do. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great day.